Naina Patel has worked for a long time in the area of equal opportunities to ensure that the voice of minorities is not neglected. Nowadays, her expertise is in ageing and ethnicity.
Naina established a research institute in 1998 to recognise the needs of an increasingly diverse ageing population. Today, with ethnic elders at Scargill House in Kettlewell, they're exploring ways to stay healthy and active.
Minorities from all different backgrounds came here as migrants in their young age. They often had lower wages in their period of employment. Consequently, their pensionable income would be lower. They often occupied poor housing. Often they had ill health for a variety of reasons. And at the time in their life when they actually need that support from services, they're often not getting, because those services were either thinking, hey, minorities are looked after in their own families, and or that the services are not geared up to their meeting particular needs.
Born in colonial Kenya, Naina came to England in 1970. After studying in London and Leeds, she became an economics teacher in Doncaster, then took on the challenge of working in race equality at Leeds City Council. She took a big risk to do the work she does today.
I've always believed that if you want to make major changes, you have to do it on your own. And so, with very good family support, I basically gave up my job with the Social Work Council. And people either thought you were amazing or they thought you were mad, because essentially you give up what I call stability. It was extremely liberating, because you felt you were creating something that you didn't quite know how it might turn out.
Breathe in. Push it out, straight in front.
Part of Naina's work is recognising that times are changing, and older people want to be independent and active as possible.
Increasingly, people like my mother's generation always had a view that you should try and be independent, live close by to your family, but allow them space as well, because that way the relationship becomes better and stronger. And so it's not about living a desire to live on your own, but that living alone is also within the context of either family visiting you or you visiting family.
Open your hand.
Elders will often say, you know, the family's so noisy, I need quiet space.
Pull it in.
You know, why shouldn't minority from different backgrounds, also as they age, find that their ears can't take to that loud music or to the noise, and they also need a sense of space.
Circle it.
In olden days, we all lived together.
Yes.
The culture is you must pay respect to old people.
As English people, we're taught that the Chinese and people from the Eastern countries are the experts on ageing. Because instinctively, without education, instinctively, people from Eastern countries look after their elders.
Now, people go away and work somewhere else. I'm living alone. My children are not living with me.
It is becoming a problem for the simple reason that the young people get married and move away, or they get jobs in another part of the country, and then the parents are left on their own.
Yes.
And then sometimes one or the other loses their partner, and that makes it even more difficult.
Leeds is a rapidly developing city. It was important to Naina that she based her work here.
I think you mentioned it earlier on that there's a lot of civic pride in Leeds now, and I think when you come in a square like this, it's visible.
It is,
isn't it? They made a very impressive job of it.
And it's open, light, all the many things that I think are very important in what we say is a good design for not just older people, but people of all ages. We have an ambition in the summer to actually use the square for minority elders from different backgrounds to do their activity presentation, from Tai Chi to yoga, to allow the workers from the council to the health and all over, people just passing by, to join in as part of their fun and active ageing.
Naina's own dad had a negative experience at an old people's centre. This served to confirm the importance of her work.
He went to a centre with his friend, and a man who loved gardens, and his friend said, you know, there's a place that has very nice gardens. He actually was made to feel unwelcome, like what was he doing in that centre? And it affected him. But it's basically that a man who could speak English so well, who loved gardens, which is a very English thing, actually arrives in a centre with a lot of English residents and is told what's he doing there. So, you know, these things do happen. Discrimination doesn't stop when you're kind of 45 or 50. You know, it's kind of continues.
Benefits of the exercise. Exercise keep you fit.
Because it's not just about caring for some elderly person who needs looking after. It's about people leading interesting and active lives as well when they're old.
The minority elders that we work with today were that same generation who worked in the hospitals. You know, the older people that we have today that we work with, some of them were nurses. They actually were absolutely critical to the health system.
Of course.
Or that they were working in transport or in factories. They could actually make a lot of contribution to not just society, but to very particular issues. And that we are not using these people. In that sense, it was fairly clear to us that they were what I call the untapped resource, because we are regarding them as partners in our work.
You were teaching the group, was it a children's song?
Yes. Yes, in olden days, it's one of the community songs that during the moonlight, the children would all come out around the neighborhood to enjoy the moonlight.
Come on, teach it me. Sierra Leone stuff, teach me.
Yeah. Well, we have a few children all around, and we make a parcel, and maybe it could be some stone in the parcel or anything, and we start singing, Dori, oh Dori, Dori, Mama Kura, Jeke, Jeke calling master.
Naina takes inspiration from elder statesman Nelson Mandela, who visited Leeds in 2001. Mandela Gardens, a part of Millennium Square, is dedicated to him. When you were a little girl growing up in Africa, Nelson Mandela was in prison.
Yes.
And look at us now, we're standing in his square.
Absolutely. And celebrating this amazing journey. But it's a journey of freedom, isn't it, and liberty. But of course, our strength also comes from seeing him as not just as an elder statesman, but also an elder who actually is quite hip. You know, I think there's beautiful shirts, but also he dances, he sings. What you get from Mr. Mandela is the very essence of hope, and that hope could be translated into progress.
Naina was awarded an OBE for her pioneering work in race relations. She's proud that her institute is based here in Leeds.
The Queen said to me, first she of course says to you, well done, and you do feel a sense of pride. But the interesting question I thought she asked was, she said to me, you're based in Leeds. How do you do all your work across Europe and London? And I said, not with great difficulty, because I made the decision to base it in Leeds, not because it would be convenient to me, but we thought it was important to have such an organisation in Leeds, because it would be halfway between London and Scotland. Also that Leeds is a continental city in many ways. We often said that if we can do positive things or show particular examples in Leeds and Bradford and Huddersfield and Sheffield, that should be applicable elsewhere.
Building bridges between young and old, and between different cultures, certainly something to admire.
On the one hand, we say, why don't these people integrate? You know, when we did our work on hospital care, we had a tremendous amount of stories where people say, you know, okay, don't show me the Chinese menu or the Asian menu. I actually like the semolina pudding, which is a classic on a hospital menu, you know. And I think that actually increasingly English elders will say, you know, I fancy a curry. In that sense, being open to the fact that we should allow a cross-exchange and allow the possibility that an English elder may well prefer a curry, an Asian elder may prefer a semolina pudding, is not a wrong thing. Next decade, which we are in now, we will have more people from minority backgrounds growing old, and they will definitely not be going home to get old. Home is for them Britain.